Morning, Abotai. Since today was the first day of Selichot, Pshat Mutzlachat, we've begun the Chodesh Rachamim Selichot, some pertinent halachot with regards to the Selichot. Although, preferably, Selichot, wherever possible, should be recited in a Minyan, and nowadays there are Minyanim for Selichot around the clock, which is great. However, there are certain situations where a person can't get a Minyan. Selichot, theoretically, is permitted to be recited without a Minyan. A person can recite Selichot even alone without a minyan, or sometimes a minyan tries to get together and they're not successful and they don't have a minyan, so that's considered to be a chidut. However, there are certain parts of the slichot that have to be either tweaked or skipped, as follows. There is the earliest sidur that Am Yisrael has in the history of Am Yisrael is that of Rav Amram Gaon. He quotes the Gaonim that came before him, namely Rav Natan Gaon, Rav Shira Gaon, and others. He quotes them as saying that when a person says the Yud Gimel Midot, person can only say the 13 attributes of mercy, Vayavor, and then Hashem Hashem Irachom Chanun, that can only be said with the tzibur. He quotes it from the Gemara, Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Zayin Amud Bet, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a covenant with Am Yisrael that any time they invoke Hashem's 13 attributes of mercy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is filled with mercy and forgives Am Yisrael, but that was specifically with the tzibur of Am Yisrael. Similar to what the Gemara says, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught Moshe Rabbeinu the 13 attributes, Melamed shenit'atef HaKadosh Baruch Hu kishliach tzibur. Hashem kavyachol wrapped himself like a shliach tzibur. When do you have a shliach tzibur? When's that? With a tzibur. That shows that it's only supposed to be said b'tzibur, and if it's not b'tzibur, you can't say it. The Rashba also quotes the Geonim and says that you can't. That's only when you're saying it b'derech tefillah. When you're saying it in a way of tefillah and asking Kadosh Baruch Hu for mercy, then it's asur if you don't have a minyan. However, if a person's reading it kekoreh b'Torah, if a person's reading the 13 attributes of mercy as if he'd be reading a pasuk from the Torah, the halacha is that it's mutar. What does it mean reading it? Reading it like a pasuk in the Torah with ta'amim. Vayavor Hashem al panav vayikra. When a person reads the entire 13 attributes with ta'amim, that would be mutar, even bi'chidut. If you don't know the ta'amim, you have to skip. There's a machloket poskim. Le'alacha, Maran Tichon Lebracha writes that even if you're saying it bi'chidut with ta'amim mikra, you can end v'fei sha'avech ta'a v'naqeh. You can, even though that's mid pasuk, he brings several poskim that say that even bi'chidut, you are allowed to stop mid pasuk. So that's the halacha with regards to the 13 attributes. There's another part of the slichot. The majority of the slichot are in Lashon HaKodesh, or in Hebrew. However, there are portions of the slichot that are in Aramaic. The Aramaic parts, usually they end off with the letter Aleph. Rachamana, that part, then you have Marana Devishmaya, Machayu Maseh, Memitu Meche, different portions that are in Aramaic. The halacha is a person is not allowed to read those portions bichidut. If you want, you can translate them into Lashon HaKodesh, that would be okay, but to read them as is in Aramaic, that's asur. And the reason for that, the Gemara says, Masechet Shabbat, Daf Yud Bet, is that when a person is praying b'tzibur, the Shekhinah is there. Hashem's presence rests with the tzibur, and therefore you don't need the assistance of malachim to bring the tefillot to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem obviously understands Aramaic, and therefore you address HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly in the tefillot in Aramaic. However, when a person prays bichidut, the Shekhinah is not there. The Shekhinah, the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not there. You require the assistance of the malachim to bring the tefillah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachim do not understand Aramaic. It's interesting. They understand every single other language on the planet besides for Aramaic. For whatever reason, the Zohar HaKadosh expounds on that, and they are frustrated when you need their help and you're using a language that they don't understand. It is detrimental. They get upset at the people, and then it has an opposite effect. And therefore, a person has to skip those parts that are said in Aramaic. You can translate it either to Lashon HaKodesh, or if you have an English translation, you can say those Aramaic portions in English too. That's fine. But to say in Aramaic itself, that would be an issue. Have a wonderful day.